Hello. Hello. Welcome to the First Mind podcast. I am your host, Monica Patrice Wallace, owner and operator of the First Mind Company, LLC. And this is just my introduction to this podcast. I wanted to give you some background information about who I am and kind of what my intentions are with this space and this platform. So, some of you may know me from the Instagram handle Come Hither Energy, which is a space that I created almost 5 years ago to the date. And it was a space that actually came out of a really difficult transition in my life. And I began just kind of journaling and documenting the healing of this grief that I was experiencing. I had lost my dad, and my dad was really a safe space for me. So that Instagram handle is kind of named after what my father created and provided for me. But yeah, my dad was probably uh, one of very few people who I was able to show up in the world authentically with. And he just was a champion and cheerleader of everything that I did. And really, validated my worth even if I did nothing. So when he passed away, it kind of just turned my world upside down. It was an unexpected loss. And I became just really intentional about taking a break and healing. I committed myself to therapy. There were some other things that were happening at that time. Just another relationship kind of had fallen apart. Somebody I had been dating for 3 years at the time. But there was kind of just this feeling of um, subsequent heartaches, heartbreaks. Um, I would say, even if we go back 10 years ago, is when I probably first asked myself um, this question that kind of just changed the trajectory of my life, which was, how am I contributing to the chaos of my life? So 10 years ago, you know, I was coming out of another failed relationship. I was a single mom of two kids. And I just, started to ask myself some really hard questions that I hadn't really asked myself before. I was noticing a pattern. I was always in relationships. My first relationship I got in when I was 13. We were together all through high school, all 4 years. So from there, another relationship, another relationship, another relationship. So I started to, just kind of be in observance of a pattern. And for the first time in my life, in my mid 30s, I was seeking to understand how I was contributing to that pattern. So I went to a couple of therapists, nothing that I really stayed with for too long. I went to a Buddhist meditation center. I learned a little bit about Buddhism that really helped me to get through the relationship that I was in at the time, which was just kind of a emotionally abusive relationship. So Buddhism really kind of helped me get out of that. From there, I decided that I was going to take a 2-year celibacy break and not date, because I was at least becoming aware that something wasn't right with the people I was picking. Like, I knew enough to know that somehow this pattern involved me. So I decided to take a break, um, learned some really good self-care techniques on that journey. I was just hanging out with, I have a younger brother, and he and I are very close. I was hanging out with him and his best friend. So I was surrounded in masculine energy, but very non-threatening masculine energy. When I would go out in the world, people often wouldn't know if I was with them. So men wouldn't really try to talk to me. So it just felt very safe. Um, and like I could, really take some time to just kind of lick my wounds and get better. So then after that 2 years of celibacy, I came out and I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to date. Let's do it. Let's go. And then began dating and found myself right back in the same situation. So um, I was in a relationship when my father passed away. That relationship deteriorated. And then this time I decided to, I wanted to take another break. I wanted to stop dating. I don't even know if I intentionally made the decision to stop dating, but I was overcome with so much grief that I just wasn't even thinking about dating. But I committed to therapy in a much more intentional way. I found an amazing therapist. Shout out to Dr. Noelle Chappelle. And I did a therapy modality called EMDR therapy. Some of you may have heard about it. We will talk about that in a future podcast episode, I promise. But I did about a year after my dad passed of EMDR therapy. It's a pretty intense trauma therapy. And then subsequently, I took a break and did another year when I decided that I wanted to leave my career and my hometown and the foundation of my life and move to the middle of the country. Yeah, that is how I came to be here in front of you. Um, and really, what happened is, as I was doing EMDR therapy, I began to unravel the origin story of a lot of my dysfunction, which was a game changer for me. So I think I spent many years avoiding, suppressing, really just in order to function, not wanting to face a lot of the traumas or experiences that I had as a child. And so, in order to show up in the world, I just kind of tried to keep it moving. I think a lot of us are taught, to keep it moving, keep it pushing. So that's what I did, and it worked. It worked. I'm a very high functioning, depressed and anxious person. So, um, I think when I started to kind of fall apart after my dad passed away, and then that became a 5-year healing endeavor. I think many people who have kind of observed this, who knew me from before, are very surprised about some of the things that I'm now saying and talking about. So, with all of that, um, I began documenting the process for my experience in terms of healing. And I was doing that on an Instagram account, Come Hither Energy. And other people just began to be drawn to that. They, really resonated with the messages, and a page that had 60 followers grew to, over 30K followers. And um without any real intention of that being the case. I really just was looking for a space where I could just talk about my feelings. I love to write. I've always, been praised for my writing, so journaling is a common, thing that I would do, but this just happened to be in a social media space. So from there, I decided that I wanted to not only document this process, but create a space where we could talk openly, authentically, transparently about what healing really is and what it entails. I feel like I spent a lot of time on this journey being told that, I just needed to do the work, and really having no blueprint of what the work was or what it is or what I'm supposed to be doing. So I just was constantly being aware that there was something I needed to do, but I just didn't really know what that was. And as I started to learn what the work is and became more conscious and more aware of um, just myself in the world, I think I just wanted to create a space where I could give that information to other people so that other people would have more support, have more information, um, and wouldn't have to fumble for as long as I feel like I fumbled for. So that is the intention with this podcast. My goal is for us to normalize what healing is, what therapy is, to take the shame and the judgment out of it. I really want to navigate away from this idea that there are somehow men and women in the world who are more valuable or higher or at higher value than other men and women in the world, and really move into a space of understanding and appreciating that we are all valuable, we are all worthy. There may be some of us who are just more aware, have more conscious of their worth. There may be some of us who, maybe if you're like me in those earlier phases of my life, who are just better imposters. But I really feel that we are in a space and a time where people want to feel better, where people want to learn about themselves. It's amazing to me to reflect over how this journey has just played itself out. And it really has been over the course of 10 years, which seems like a really long time to be working on healing. But when I think about it and put it in perspective, I mean, we go to school K through 12 at the very least. Um, and that's 12 years of studying somebody else, like other people's lives, other people's, information. And um, I think what I did was I just turned that around and made it inward. I decided that I wanted to be intentional in the study of me. And I feel like that really has allowed me to connect better with myself. I feel like now I can truly make sense of what it means to love myself, because now I know who myself is. A big part of this healing journey has been just really connecting with my origin story. And what I learned in that is that a lot of my personality is more about things that I had to do to cope and survive through life, as opposed to the genuineness of who I am as a person. So then it becomes this journey to rediscover myself. And as I do that, I just fall very deeply in love with myself, in love with this version of myself, as much as I am in love with that old version of myself, because that old version of myself is what, held me down to get to who I am today. So, um, yeah, I'm grateful for all of it. And I want to continue to grow and to learn. What I really want for the First Mind podcast to be is for us to have a thought partnership. I don't want to show up in this space as an expert or as some sort of superior who's going to tell you how to live your life. I'm really just wanting to document in a more detailed way the things that I've done and the things that have helped me. I'm also bringing on guests who have been through various healing journeys and utilize different healing modalities. And they're going to talk about their testimonies and kind of what that experience has been for them. I want my audience to be able to also engage in this space and ask questions, and for us to just, in a safe, non-threatening space, talk about the reality of what being a human is, because I think we've gotten far away from the humanness of things and supporting one another, um, as the world just, is starting to kind of unravel a bit, if you will. Let's hold each other up and guide each other through, is what I hope that this podcast can be. The reason why I called it the First Mind podcast is because, um, well, for obvious reasons, our first mind is our connection to our intuition. And I think that's very important. I think that what I've learned on my journey is that I came into this world with a very keen intuitiveness about myself. And then just by nature of matriculating through society, I got away from that and lost that connection to myself. So when we think of the first mind, we think of intuition, and reconnecting with our intuition. But in addition to that, our first mind is also, in my opinion, going back to that origin story and really taking a deep dive and a good look at how it is that we even came to be who we are today. So that's my goal. That's what I hope to do. I'm super excited about taking this journey and this walk together with you and healing together and learning from you. Um, I'm excited about where this all will lead and what this space will evolve into. Uh, yeah, and I just wanted to welcome you and tell you that you are in the right place. Our first episode is going to be a special guest. Dr. Cynthia Lewis Wallace is coming on, a military psychologist, and she's going to talk to us about attachment styles. I think what you'll find is that a lot of what we come to feel is failure in relationships has a lot more to do with our attachment, and again, just those early developmental years and how we learned how to attach then. So I think this is a really good way to start the podcast off. And yeah, I'm super excited. So stay tuned and I will see you soon. Take care. Let's heal.